Hey y'all, good morning. Well, sitting here in the motel room and finally putting some stuff together for the amateur radio technician class. Okay, and I'm going to do this just a little bit different than what most folks are doing it. Rather than going through everything and everybody, I'm going to try to give you all the resources you need to look at some of this stuff yourself. I know me just telling you what frequencies are allowed or what emissions are allowed on what bands, etc., will give you the information short term. But assuming most of you are like me, my short term memory is horrendous. I've got to take notes on most everything, otherwise I get forgetful. So, best thing to remembering the frequencies, the modes, etc. We've got Google now. So here's some resources to get you started on some of that. One thing you're going to want is the amateur radio band plan. Type this in again into your Google, Yahoo, whatever search engine you run. This will bring up a chart in the images section and show you what the amateur bands are, what frequencies, and what classes of licenses are allowed to operate within each segment of that band, and the power limitations, and the modes, what you're allowed to do with a given license, how much power you're allowed to run, what modes you're allowed to run, etc. So, rather than me wasting a bunch of time giving you all that information, that's something you can look up, print out, hang up on the wall. That and the American Radio Relay League has a bunch of publications too, where it's in a lot of their books, the ARRL handbook, the ARRL operating manual, etc. will also have this data inside, so that you can look it up real quick and okay, a technician is allowed to operate from here to here and from there to there, and this way too you can memorize what bands and what frequencies are the same. So many times those of us in the amateur service will speak in terms of meter bands: 160, 80, 75, 60, 30, 40, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, 6, 2, 220, 440. By the way, I might add, from 160 to 2 meters, we deal exclusively in meters. You'll never hear us say, 144 or 50. Once in a while you may hear us talk about 50 megahertz, but we're generally talking in terms of meter bands. We start getting to UHF, 220, 440, 902, 1.2 gig, etc. Then you'll start hearing us talk in terms of frequency. Why that is, good question, but that's been the way it's been since I've been in the hobby. Just one of them, the way we've always done it. Okay, so there we go. 160 through 2 meters, you're going to hear us talk almost exclusively in terms of meters instead of frequency. Again, this is something you can download the chart, and there are multiple charts available. Just whichever one you like ergonomically, take your pick of which one suits you better, and go from there. And it'll break it down again on this band from here to here, technicians from there to there for the generals, and the rest of it for the extras, power requirements, etc. So there you go. Something that's also available: do a search for Part 97 amateur radio. This is the rules, the FCC rules for the amateur radio service. Back in the days when I was getting into it, it came in print form in a book published by the ARRL, and I think I paid $4 or something for it back in 1986 or 87. Okay, with the advent of the internet now, all that's online. If you do a search for that, it will link you over to the ARRL website where it's available. I can't remember. It's either as a PDF file or a Word document, docx. So you'll need at least Microsoft Word 07, I believe. It'll be one or the other format. So don't quote me which one. I know I downloaded it this morning and I saw PDF and I saw docx. Don't quote me which one I downloaded. I know the format. But I'm sure most of you have at least one or the other format. If you don't, I'm sure you've got friends that do that can download it and print it for you. That way you got a handy dandy copy right there for you to be able to look up, definitions. What is a control operator? What bands are available for this, that, and the other thing. But some of that we'll go over. We'll actually discuss licensing, the control ops and everything. I will deal with a lot of the questions. I did download the entire technician, general, and extra class question rules. That way I'm going to go through and make notes out of all three of them. As soon as we're done talking about the tech, I'll move on to general. As soon as I'm done then with general, I'll move on to extra. I will add at this point with the extra class material. I looked at the extra a while back, and it is a completely different monster than when I took it in 1989. This is largely due to much of the advent of digital communications. Computers have completely revolutionized amateur radio, as with every other part of life, and so many more digital modes available now than there were back in the 80s when I was first getting into it. So much of that was not on the exam when I took it in 89. Of course, the advantages that y'all have now, I had the 20 word a minute code test to go with my extra, and it was a 40 question written exam. I will add, excuse me, the extra class written for me was by far the most difficult. Back then there were 5 of them, 5 classes of license: novice, technician, general, advanced, and extra. Okay. The novice was a 5 word a minute code test, and I want to say 30 questions, 25 or 30. I want to call it 30. Passed that 35 years ago now. Passed that in July of 86. But then, at that time, to go to technician, it was a simple 50 question written exam covering essentially the same material that we will cover in the technician and general classes of study right now. But then, for a technician at that time, to upgrade to general, all you had to do was simply pass a 13 word a minute code test, and you were a general. If you were a technician, you took the 13 word a minute code test, you were a general. Okay? That was the only difference. Then, to go from general to advanced, 50 question written. And back at that time, everybody was complaining that the advanced was the most difficult. Well, for me, that came in late 1988, and I was taking a course at our community college in AC circuits. Electronics class in AC circuits. Had a really good teacher for it, named Bob Arndt. He's a local ham here. Has since retired from teaching, but That's everywhere. Very nice man. Good teacher. So that helped me a lot. A lot of the material that was in the AC circuits class was on the advanced. So when I went to take the advanced, it was a piece of cake. Big deal. But then to go to extra, 20 word a minute code test and a 40 question written. The 20 word a minute code test, I was learning my Morse code, getting on the air, using it, enjoying it. At the time, too, I had a friend here local. He's since passed away here a year or two back, named Tom Johns. Smart man. Retired electrical engineer for Peabody Coal. And he had, I want to say, Commodore 64. Maybe he had upgraded to something else by then, but he had wrote a computer program for sending Morse code. So we got on the air. We got on there quite a bit. The problem I was having, I could copy 20 words a minute up here. I could hear it, I could understand it, I could follow the conversation, but writing it was my problem. Writing that fast gave me a glitch. Okay, so we got on the air quite frequently, and we'd chit chat for about an hour, and I made myself write at 20 words a minute. He set the speed at 20 words a minute, and we'd chat for about an hour. And finally, after an hour, my hand is doing one of these. And I tell him, okay, we got to clear out here for a while. Let my hand rest. And after, I don't know, 4 or 6 months of that, next testing session came available. I went in, took to 20, a piece of cake, no problem. The extra class written ate me up. It tore me up big time. But I finally got through it. So the problem I recently encountered looking at a lot of this digital stuff is I never played with it. I'm a bit of a dummy when it comes to the computers and trying to make the COM ports talk to the radios. And then you've got the interface to go between the computer and the radio, and those can run $100, and that's more money than I got right now. So the other night I sent a Facebook message to John Williams, another local ham, and asked him how he was with this stuff. I thought he was better than me, but I wanted to double check. And he said, yeah, I play with all that. And I explained to him, I've got this YouTube channel. I'm wanting to do all 3 courses of amateur radio. When it comes to this stuff, would you be willing to help me out? Get somebody in here better with this stuff than I am that can get everybody through it. And he said, just let me know, do whatever I can to help you. So I think we're going to be in good shape. John's a decent guy, can explain everything real good. Okay, so get your frequency chart, get your Part 97 downloaded. I'm also going to put in the link a place to find a local club and local testing sessions, links to that. That will link you to the ARRL, where to find a local club and local testing sessions local to wherever you're at. What you're going to want to do is get active with that, or find that local club. And as I've explained before, with these local clubs, outside of the business meetings that we have to talk club business, how much is in the treasury, and issues with repeaters, and upcoming field day, and etc. like that. Get away from that. We like to get together, drink coffee, drink soda, barbecue, get together for breakfast, get together for lunch. We love doing all that. In them clubs you can pick up what we call Elmers. An Elmer is essentially somebody that's been in the hobby for a long time that can come up alongside you and kind of walk you through. If you've got questions about, hey, here's this question in this question pool I don't understand. Or, hey, I'm looking at this piece of equipment. What do you think of this? Or, hey, I'm going to the Ham Fest. Want to look around, get something for HF? Or, hey, can you come out and uh, see what kind of antennas I need to set up out here? Whatever. These are the guys that can help you get your feet wet and talk to you about things like that. So get yourself a good local Elmer. Because as much as I love doing the YouTube stuff, I can't be local to everybody, and I can't get into your place and see. Okay, for antennas, you're going to want to do this, that, or the other thing. That it's almost an individual basis. What have you got in the way of trees? What is your lot size like? What does your budget look like as far as equipment? You want to stay up on 2 meters and just chat with the local boys? You want to go down on HF, start doing some contesting, talk to your brother in California, or your buddies up in Ontario, or whatever. I mean, this is where the local connections come in, and these guys can answer those questions for you. I have also downloaded the Cash App on the smartphone. So if you want to support the channel, I'll put that down in the link too. If you don't, that's fine. Whatever. But just for those of you that do. This is just the introductory, by the way. I have downloaded, again, all three: the Technician, the General, and the Extra. I'm going to have to start looking at some of this, start making some notes, and seeing all of what I want to hit and what I think we need to talk about. I suspect that I'm not only going to be trying to answer the questions directly, but give a little bit of insight and background behind a lot of that. I don't think I'll be answering each individual question, because they've got multiple questions essentially asking the same thing. And again, when it comes to what frequencies are Technician allowed, on what bands and that, you can refer to your chart and look that up. If you've got questions, leave it in the comment section. I'll do whatever I can to answer your questions either there, or if I've got to make another video to address some of this, I'll do what I got to do to help out there. So, all right, y'all, here we are coming up on 18 minutes. Didn't expect it to run that long. But here we're getting started with the amateur radio technician course, again, moving toward General and Extra. So, this is where we start, y'all. With that, I'll end it for here. Next video coming up, we will start looking at the questions. Last thing, do a search for the Technician question pool. That will refer you over to the ARRL. You can drop down and start looking at the question pool yourself. And then if there are questions you have from the question pool, again, put those in the comments and we can talk. If there's problems, again, I can either answer them directly in the comments or make a video as whatever the case may be. We'll just wing this along and do whatever we got to do. It was suggested to me to make this a live, but I opted to do it this way. That way, if you need to go back and look at something again, we can just go back and forth, and we're not bound by schedules and conflicts like that. All right, with y'all. With that, I will say 73, which in amateur radio terms is best regards, and we'll say Jimbo up.